Welcome back to another video of PJ Codes. And if you're joining me for the very first time, then on this channel, we talk about everything software development related and also some extra fun topics. But let's get right to it. So in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about some possible interview questions that any software developer can expect from an interview, right? So whether you're going in for an interview for a general software development position or let's say a front end position or a back end, these are some questions that you can expect. And from my experience, these are some questions that I have, um, you know, been asked, and I figured it would be a good idea to compile them and share with you guys. So if ever you come across these, you can learn and get better as a developer in the broad spec of things. But let's get started. So question number one: what did you learn yesterday or this week? Now this is a very common question that's usually asked, and interviews usually ask this because they want to see how passionate you are, right? They want to see that, okay, does this person just code from 9 to 5? Is this the kind of person that will only, turn on their code hat when they walk in at 9 and out at 5? It's done. No, they want to see that, okay, is this person actually passionate about what they do? Do they love what they do? Do they live and breathe code? Now, don't get me wrong. Um, you know, Employers do want to see like a good balance in an employee. They don't want you to just be a code monkey, like a code robot, right? They want you to be somebody who's a well balanced human being. But also um, the fact that if you're passionate enough in what you do, then you will keep striving to learn new things on a constant basis. So that's what they usually look for. Are you constantly greasing your wheels? Are you staying on top of your ball? And it's very easy to get obsolete. Blunt and simple, it's very easy to get obsolete in this industry. But that really, in my opinion, should not be your fear as to, that shouldn't be your motivating factor to learn. You should actually want to learn, um, because if you're in this field, I take it that you love it, right? Because you got to really love software development, let's be honest, to be a software developer. So yeah, definitely, this is a very commonly asked question. I think in almost all my interviews, I've been asked like, hey, what did you learn this week, or what's the last thing you worked on? And for example, a good answer is something like, yeah, something that I learned recently was the CORS policy. What is CORS? Cross origin resource sharing. Um, and how did I come across it? Why did I learn that? Well, it's a problem that while I was building an application, I was using an API, and I was having some trouble getting my JSON data back, and I did some more research, and I tend to I once I did some research, I found out more, and I just kept reading, and I learned something new. So they want to see that you're an active learner, because if you're an active learner, you're actively doing, and that's what they really want to see. All right, next question: what excites you or interests you about coding? This really ties in hand with the first question. They want to see you be excited. They want to see you be interested in coding, in what you do. And it's not just coding, it's really about like, are you going to be somebody who is passionate and fun to work with, right? That's another thing that really goes through somebody's mind while they're interviewing you is, can I work with this person? Is this person because if this person is excited and interested in what they do, they're going to be approachable, they're going to be helpful, they're going to be open to constructive criticism because they want to learn. So all these things, it all ties up, it all ties together in the end, basically. So that's something that you definitely want to, look out for. An example answer to this question would be, what excites me about coding is the fact that it's sort of like art for me, right? I open up the browser, there's a blank canvas, there's a blank sheet, and basically I feel like an artist. Now, this might sound cheesy, but you're painting a picture. what interests me is that I can solve problems. I can conceive and engineer complex problems. I can start with the most basic thoughts, and I can basically build like a builder, like an architect, like a painter, right? I can constantly build and improve. And once I build my product, I can refactor it, I can improve it, I can make it better. These are the things that interest me personally about coding, but that's usually my answer because that's really what interests me. Next question. Can you describe the difference between progressive enhancement and graceful degradation? Now, these are two very important terms that you should Google and definitely look into more, and especially for front-end developers. So I'll give you like a brief overview of what these two terms mean. Progressive enhancement basically means that when you're building a website, right? You start with the most basic features. You start with the most basic features, like you have your MVP, and you progressively. It's just the way it sounds. You progressively improve the features as you go. Graceful degradation has more to do with I would say browser compatibility and device compatibility. So basically, say you build a brand new website or a landing page, right, or a certain feature for an application. It works wonderful in the latest version of Chrome, right? As soon as you start testing on different browsers, say example, the infamous Internet Explorer 11, IE 11, or Edge, now that feature or that the positioning of a certain part of your site is off. It's broken, right? What happened? It didn't degrade gracefully. So it's graceful degradation is basically building websites, building features that can gracefully, that'll break easily, that'll break gracefully. It won't be an ugly break on older browsers, right? So it's an art of itself. I would definitely recommend really reading about these two. um, you know and yeah, these are very important concepts that especially any front-end developer should be very cognizant of, very mindful of. uh, Next question is probably one of the most important, I would say, in my opinion. um, how would you optimize a website's assets or resources, right? So speed, performance, web performance is probably the most important concept that any company will look for in their product, because statistically, the user will lose interest in your site if it doesn't load within the first 2 seconds. If it takes more than 2 seconds, your bounce rate is going to go through the roof. So what happens is, now your bounce rate is going up, and now the users aren't using your website, and the company is losing money. So performance equals money. Just remember that. The way your site performs, the way your application performs is money. Time equals money. The same concept. Performance equals money. So a good answer to this question would be bundling all your scripts, compressing all your images, for example, um, you know things of that nature. Basically anything that will help. And there's an entire checklist that Google has written. I'm not going to go through the entire checklist. I don't want to make this video about each one of these questions, but my point of this video is to just kind of lead you through the questions and have you do the research on your own, because being a developer, that's what we do. We research all day. This is probably one of the most important questions. The second question, well, the next question, excuse me, is how many resources will the browser download from a given domain at a time? Now, different browsers will download different resources at a time. Chrome, different versions of Chrome, excuse me, different versions of Mozilla and Internet Explorer, Firefox, Opera, etc. They all download certain amount of resources, per minute. So you definitely want to look into that. This one I would say I haven't really got this question, but it's definitely important to know. It's definitely good to know. I left this on here because it shows that if you know this, right, you have a deep understanding of how the browser works, and not just one browser, but many browsers, many different browsers. You have a good general understanding of how you know everything works. All right, next question. Name 3 ways to decrease page load or perceived or actual load time. Um, for this question, I would definitely recommend looking at the Google Docs. Not too long ago, I took I basically took the front end developer certification for Google. And while I was studying for that, they have an entire study list. And in that study list is a whole chapter on performance. Now, if you want to really nail performance, um, definitely check that Google documentation out. It will literally change your life when it comes to your career. I might sound dramatic, but it changed my life. So definitely read that. Um, if you're currently working on a side project or any project, right? A good recommendation to check your performance is install Lighthouse. Well, it's already installed in Chrome. You can do a nice little audit, and basically, Lighthouse will list everything you need to improve. Right from image size to image compression to the amount of milliseconds it takes to load your very first resource. It's called TTI, time to first interactivity. First FMP, excuse me, first meaningful paint, first contentful paint. These are all terms that are very important to know, and this is all included in that Google documentation. Um, Definitely check that out. But these, this question and how would you optimize a website's resources? These really go hand in hand. Um, for these, I would definitely point to the proper Google documentation because that's the proper way in my experience. What is a flash of unstyled content? How do you avoid FOUC? Now, what exactly is a flash of unstyled content? It's very simple. I'll just give you a very brief overview of what it is. Excuse me. Um, Now, when the browser loads a website, right? What it will do is first it will go through the HTML document, and basically it's going to have a top-down approach, right? So what's going to happen is if you don't have your style tags called your link to your CSS file, it should be really file, not files. Um, if the link to your CSS file is not in your header, what's going to happen is it's going to load all this HTML, this raw HTML, and then it's going to load your styles. If you're loading your styles at the bottom of the page, which is the absolutely wrong way to call your CSS, what's going to happen is you're going to have a flash of literally just raw HTML, and then you're going to see all your styles kick in. So that's why we load our CSS in the head every time. This way, as soon as the browser sifts down your index.html, it's going to catch your styles first, and then it'll go to the raw HTML. So definitely keep that in mind. Next question, explain what ARIA screen readers are and how to make a website accessible. ADA compliance. ADA compliance. Uh, Learn it. It's definitely going to make your life easier, and it's also very, very important. And it's also important to be empathetic towards users with disabilities. Definitely, you want to make any feature, any product, any website or landing page that you're working on, you want to try to make it as accessible for people with certain disabilities, such as either blindness or uh, someone without a keyboard or some sort of mobile disability. Um, ARIA is basically they're basically elements that you inject into your HTML that guide screen readers to people with disabilities, right? So I would definitely recommend checking out the ARIA specs online. there's an entire guideline of and documentation that you can go through. Definitely check that out, and that goes hand in hand with ADA compliance. Uh, if you really want to build solid professional work, then this right here is your bread and butter. This is important right from the start to the end of every project. Definitely very, very important. And the last question. Oh, I can't even scroll. What does CORE stand for, and what issue does it address? Again, I mentioned CORES earlier. I'll give a very brief overview on what CORES is. CORES is basically cross origin resource sharing, and what that does is basically CORE stands basically you have a server, right, that is loading files from it's basically loading one website for you, right? Your client, your browser, you're looking at website A, and basically the files from website A are being launched from its server, right? So let's call that server A. And now you have another website that, say, your website A is making a call to, let's say, an API call to server B. Now those two servers cannot exchange data because of security concerns. So that's where CORS comes in. This CORS is probably one of the most important, I should say, when it comes to everyday work, because you're gonna, as a developer, obviously, if you already know what CORS is, right? But if you don't, then this is something that you're gonna come across pretty much on a very often, let's just say. Um, but yeah, definitely check that out. You just type in CORS or cross-origin resource sharing in Google, and you'll get a plethora of articles. But yeah, again, these are some possible interview questions that you might be asked. Yeah, just let me know if you guys have any questions, and good luck. And I hope this is of any help to you. And let me know if I missed anything, or if you would like to suggest some more questions that I can throw in, or yeah, anything of that nature. In the next video, I'll talk some about some more JavaScript questions, some more JavaScript interview questions. But yeah, until then, stay tuned. See you guys in the next video. Bye.